Now, I want to make this video quick because I see people doing this wrong all the time. Now, I'm sure there's probably dozens or hundreds of other videos out there that probably explain this better than I do, but maybe you haven't come across that, and I just want to get this out there. So, this is my window mounted AC unit. Now, I like the ones that actually mount in the window a lot better because actually far more efficient. But anyways, won't get into too much of that. I just want to show you how to do this properly in case you're wondering. This is how I've done it actually. I've done this in apartment rentals before, so there's a few things you want to watch out for. Some things that might be a little bit tricky, might be a little bit intimidating for you. One is this lever mechanism, which you can see that I've pulled out already. Now this is what was a lever that opened up like this, and this was a side pivoting window. This works pretty much the same in any orientation of window. This is a 3x3 space in this window. This is a 6x3 overall window frame. So what I do is I first get rid of all this hardware in here. There's some pieces that the window slides in the track here. This is all super easy. You just do this with a flat blade screwdriver. There's just little clips that you pop up. Then you take the Phillips head screws out. Get rid of all of that hardware for the window mechanism. And then you're able to put a nice heavy duty piece of plywood in here. Now I go with 5/8 or 3/4. You probably don't have to go that thick, but it's just going to last longer, and it gives you a bit more rigidity when you're mounting this window in here. Now what I'll end up doing in a sec here, which I'll probably film, is I'll be sandwiching another piece of plywood over here. I'll be putting a bunch of insulation inside, and sometimes I do use some of this window trim here as well. Maybe you'll see on the inside piece once I put it in. I usually mount against, there's a bunch of different ridges in here that you can mount, screw your plywood to, and sometimes those don't exactly line up with another. So I'm going to end up mounting my plywood to this, screwing to this piece here, which is going to leave me this big gap here. It's just probably fine as long as your fitment is pretty tight. But you know, if you make it a little bit looser, this is going to be, it's just going to make your life that much easier. And then all you have to do is just put some of this in between and then sandwich that together once you get your final piece of plywood on. So the other thing is just paint this really good with some exterior paint, and then go around the seam on the outside. I won't bother on the inside. You actually want to leave maybe the bottom here without any caulking on it, either on the inside or outside, because if you get any moisture or condensation in here, you want to be able to come down and be able to find its way out. You don't want moisture piling up in this ridge here and then causing this window to rot out. So leave that bottom seam uncaulked, but seam for the rest of the way, caulk that the rest of the way around. And I'll try to get you an outside image of this as well. I'll get you a little bit more progression here in a second. One other thing I forgot to mention, when you do pull this to get this mechanism out, the screws are actually in behind this cover here, and you can see I broke this a little bit, which isn't that big of a deal. But if you pry on it nicely, this piece will come out. Sometimes it's got some screws in it, as you can see this one. I bought these windows secondhand, so somebody had already screwed this together, probably replaced this mechanism. I think I've made a video on this before, actually what would be reconditioning these windows and changing the mounting positions of these brackets so they should close a little bit better. And in that process, this is one of the pieces that you pull out. If you don't have any screws or just nails in here, I doubt it's glued. It could be. If it's glued, you're probably going to break more, but whatever, it is what it is. You're going to have to do it. You just pull that off. It usually comes pretty easy though, and then you get the screws behind this. Like I said, get rid of all that hardware and you're good to go. On this AC unit, I've actually got this bracket put in already. Sometimes, depending on your AC unit, what you have for mounting hardware, you might not have this exact same thing. I originally was planning on leaving this all off and then pushing it in from the outside, but I just gave myself a little bit of extra clearance. The reason for that was on the back here, there's that big hump. But I just gave myself an extra 1/4 inch of clearance, and I think I'm going to be able to tilt it this way and then slide it over that hump and then push it in so that this will butt up against the inside. This will be inside the insulation here, so that's going to butt up against that. There will be insulation here, and then that way I can get my measurements for this, because you're going to see there's 2 penetrations through the plywood, and you know that I'm not mounting to the same jambs on the inside and outside, so I made my hole on the outside piece first. I'm going to mount this to that, and then I'll be able to take the measurements off my frame to get the hole perfect for the inside. Hopefully I've explained that right. Another quick mention I'm going to make here is that this piece had this little cushion on the bottom here. You're going to want to screw that piece against the air conditioner. That's going to prevent rattling or squeaking in here. After time, those parts will wear together and you'll get that nasty squeaking noise. This screw is going to allow me to set this in position, which I want to be level. In fact, I want this to be sloped slightly outwards. You do not, absolutely do not want this sloped slightly inwards, because when these fins in here occasionally build up condensation, that condensation, when it thaws, will drip down to this tray in the bottom here, and you want that to run outwards. You don't want that dripping to the inside. I've had that before. It sucks. So just make sure. I'm just going to put, you don't want this sloped like crazy, just ever so slight of an angle sloped outwards. Okay, you can see I caulked the outside seams here. Some people, I use DAP personally, interior exterior DAP, because it's paintable. You know, you don't really have to do over these screw heads, but this is probably going to be pretty much permanent. It's going to be in here for a very long time, so I'm just going to do that. I'm going to put one more coat of paint over top of all this once I'm done. DAP is great for painting over. Again, some people say don't use DAP. Don't listen to outdated, you know, whatever. You can use the soap technique to keep your hands clean. If you, but you want to get on this stuff pretty early before it dries, or else it's going to smear pretty bad. I'll just use my finger and then I'll just wipe it off. The trick to this stuff is not putting too much on, just putting enough that you're going to get a full seal. But again, you put too much on and you're just going to have this big, nasty, ugly mess. I've probably put a bit too much on myself. You can see here it's kind of smeared over. That's what happens when you use too much. But again, this is all just going to get painted anyways, so that's the outside. I didn't do any on the top there because it just seemed kind of unnecessary. I'm not going to get any driving water in there. I did on the sides and on top of this unit very well. There was a pretty big bead there, so I just pumped it full inside and outside, and you know, it's going to be good.